Welcome to a beautiful autumn morning here at the circuit. Ricardo, Tormo, just outside Valencia in southern Spain, and looking down over the track. 15 turns, 4 kilometers in all. This is getting set for the GT2 European Series action. It's qualifying time. Air temperature continues to rise, a comfortable 24 degrees. Track temperature likewise edging up. It's still only just coming up to 10:15 in the morning. Things will get a lot hotter and a lot stickier on the track, but right now we're set for qualifying. We're going to see who in this field for the GT2 European Series can come out on top in qualifying at least.
It's going to be an interesting session here to have the GT2 cars at Valencia. You can see the infield there, very tight, twisty, technical. These GT2 cars, highly powerful machines, 700 horsepower, more than their GT3 brothers and much more than the GT4 younger brother as well. So the power has to go somewhere, and it's through those rear tyres. They're slightly skinnier than the GT3 as well. So these are a real handful of machinery for these drivers. We've got a real good mix. We've got the Audi here making its way down LP Racing. You've got Mercedes, you've got Maserati, you've got Lamborghini and KTM all represented here.
Yeah, and again, if you take a look and stand them alongside a GT3 car, you can see there's a little bit more extreme, sort of certainly much more prominent rear wings and other aero tweaking. But what we have here are 20-minute qualifying sessions to define the grids for the two races. And there is Philippe Prette coming out to get into one of the handful of Maseratis in this field. He's had a very good season so far, so certainly a lot to play for. We've got 8 cars coming out to play. When I say coming out, some are already out onto the circuit, not wanting to waste any time. Philippe Prette, by the way, leads last year's champion in the AM class, leads it again. Of course, his son Louis performing in the GT3 series, so a busy weekend for the family.
Yeah, Philippe Prette has had 6 pole positions so far this year in class, so he'll be looking to keep that form up. Of course, driving solo has the advantage in Q2 of knowing how the car feels. I think we have seen that turn into a negative in the longer, hotter races, though having to do the full hour by himself.
Well, you choose your poison in so many points of life, but certainly a double dose for a lot of drivers is all that they require. But it's about learning this track. Very, very tricky indeed for all the participants. But right now, it's a track where they've got to concentrate on just getting things right. And what we've seen in all the sessions so far, there are about 6 points out of the 15 around the circuit whereby you can run wide off the circuit, and so many times will be taken away. And what a shame to ruin your lap. I guess if you're going to ruin your lap, you know you've exceeded track limits at turn 1, you can back off. But it's when you get it wrong, you know, somewhere around turn 12, which is a slightly uphill right-hander, we're seeing a lot of people being pinged there. Don't want to be negative, it's just modern motor racing, and the black bit is the bit you're supposed to be on. The white lines around the outside do theoretically mark the outside of the circuit. Of course, you can put your left-hand wheels outside them on a left-hander, and it won't matter. It's if your right-hand wheels follow as well. All 4 wheels beyond the white line, and you would be picking up a penalty.
And it is hard as a driver to sometimes know if you were legal. So you were like, I think I was legal. And it's almost the self-doubt of the morning after the night before. You were like, I was pretty good fun last night, I'm pretty sure in my mind. And then you watch the video back, and it turns out you did run wide out of turn 1.
Every single lap, quite clearly. Right, the first flying laps will be coming on the board very soon indeed. But of course, as you said, Joe, for those running solo, they've got more chance to get a feel for the circuit, and it will be very different from how it was when they were, you know, any previous track time this weekend, and would have been on a much hotter track in much warmer weather conditions. It's lovely, lovely weather, but certainly these are quite hot little offices. And at the moment, looking at the RTR projects KTM, and we've got Victor Moras joining Matt Hommler this weekend. They've raced together before this season, but it's been a bit of a sort of rotating group of co-drivers for Matto. He's had Laura Kreihammer race with him before. But in fact, Victor Moras has actually, I beg your pardon, raced with Thomas Miniberger early in the season in the opening round at Paul Ricard. What a great series of circuits the GT2 series go to. Start your season in Paul Ricard, off to Zandvoort, Spa-Francorchamps, Misano, Valencia, et al. But this is Valencia here, and now fabulous high shot showing the long start-finish straight, dropping from start to finish. Then you get into turn 1, and immediately the track just coming out of the bottom of your picture will then kick uphill. It's only a gentle slope, but gradient is something that really, really does affect a lap, and for the drivers makes it much more of a challenge, much more fun. Turn 1, you can see how tempting it is to get in there and carry as much speed, but it does have consequences. The wheel marks you see running out over the painted areas outside the track tell many a story, I feel.
Yeah, and turn one, maybe to the viewers at home, we'll just go through the corner correctly. It's 160 kilometers an hour through turn one after a top speed of 270 kilometers an hour in these GT2 cars. Here we can see Miraz flying through turn 8 now. The quick chicane, 9, 10, in a really difficult braking zone for 11. Why is it difficult? Because you're never straight. The car wants to go left, you want to go right, and eventually you have to find a compromise, and you have to really rein the car in. This short straight here, as you break the beam for sector 2, purple of course, because we're early on the session, opening up turn 12, nice. Big apex curve on the inside to be wary of. Then this flat out 13, diving down the hill into 14 here, and again, so curved brake zones, you can't really make a straight line, and the corner's off camber, and it's a late apex, and there's track limits on exit, and the exit's important to make sure that lap, but also your next lap is a good one, and we're going to see a 135.1 there pre-qualifying session. Before this we're in the 134s, so a good lap from the 89 of Miraz, but probably not enough for pole. Luca Piri here all over the curb through that chicane we were talking about watching the KTM. These Audis seem to have a lot of rear end instability at times, making them lively but difficult to hustle on. Looking a bit calmer through the mid-speed, so once the aero gets onto that big rear wing, it seems to calm this GT2 R8 down.
Yeah, the big rear wing is the real divider externally, visually for these cars over their GT3 cousins, and that great big air scoop ramming air down to the hungry engine. Of course, the more air you can punch on through, the more it helps, but it looks good too. Certainly the thing, if you have a grid walk, the more extreme cars really do attract the eye. Luca Piri goes up into second place, so 9/10 of a second down, but slotting very nicely in. At the moment, third place on the time charts is going to one of the Mercedes, and it's Petra Leza. Lisa, who shares the RTR Project's car with Andrei Rokosh. That is good for third overall. Target time, 1 minute 35.1. And bear in mind that the GT3 runners, of course, we saw some very quick laps that took pole outright for Dennis Marshall. 1 minute 30.9, I think it was, just getting into below the 1 minute 31s. Olivier Frameth, a long-time supporter of GT2 racer. Good to have him back on board this weekend, bringing his Lamborghini, again mixing up the manufacturers that come out to play. But at the moment, he knows what the target time is, and we'll be going around to see how well he can go. 1 minute 37.6 he's done. That's good for third overall. Keeping it neat, keeping it tidy. Yeah, and no traffic at the moment for cars we're seeing in shot, so they've done well to find their space. Not quite up on his sector 1 at the moment. Is that the tyre dropping off? Is that the driver trying a few things? After a couple of laps, you tend to just experiment with a few things just to see what sticks and what doesn't, and maybe pushing the braking points, going in deep. That's how it looked at turn 1 when we picked this car up at the start of this lap. Easy to overdrive these cars as well. Now, one of the beauties here, these are two 20-minute qualifying sessions. For GT3, they only have 10-minute qualifying sessions. So the scope of getting things wrong and realizing if you block your likely 2 flying laps you're going to get in is huge. Here, there's more time to settle down, to just appraise the performance of the car, the performance of you as the driver, performance of the tyres, and equally making sure you've got clear space ahead of you, and the driver's managing to do that very nicely so far. A little circuit tracker match, so the car's very much evenly spaced around the circuit. Still only 5 of them have set flying laps. We're waiting for now 6. We're waiting still for Roberto Pampanini and Broniek Formaniec in the Maserati and Lamborghini respectively to get a flying lap on the board. That will come very soon indeed, you can be sure of that. Yep, as we pick up AM-class leader championship-wise, Philip Prette, lovely rotation through the previous hairpin. You can see the rubber being laid down from the rear tyre of this Maserati MC20 GT2 car. It's looking like a good lap for Philip Prette. This should be second overall, I think, just behind the KTM of Miraz. Car seems to be getting better. Still more than half the session remaining as well. Philip presses on over the line and does go second. 2/10 of the second now behind the KTM. Neat and tidy and sounding absolutely fantastic. And the Mercedes AMG, in whichever form you run it, always had a wonderful, wonderful engine note. And I do think that sound, or noise as some people might call it, is so important in motor racing. When people watch on TV, they get a sort of element, but there's nothing like standing up when the cars are fired up in the pit lane, or standing trackside when they've really got full chat on board. Down the straight we come. So up into second place by the advantage of having done several laps. Petra Lisa puts Mercedes into second, but it's still a KTM, the KTM, only won this weekend, at the top of the chart. It's close, 0.118 of a second. This is good, really starting to close up. Top 3 cars covered by 2/10 of a second. Top 4 cars, as we have a better lap from Luca Piri, half a second does it. So this is tight. Let's see who's going to squeak to the top position.
Yeah, Formanak keeping it tight on the exit there. So is Framer. The Lamborghini's not using the exit curb out of 14. Is that because the car doesn't want to? They're worried about track limits. Let's see this car as it flies through turn 1. Is it going to be the same on the exit curve? It seems to run wider there. That's more normal, so maybe we're just getting the tyres in. You want to stay off the curbs until the tyres are fully pressured. When the pressures are low, you can damage the sidewall of the car, so they'll be careful of that. As we go back to Petrolisa after a mega sector 1 here, less than 300ths off the ultimate fastest. Just looks like he's backed out of it though in this middle sector, so maybe he's made a mistake saving the tyre. Let's see, he'll cross the sector 2 exit after this corner. Just thought the body language of the car looks slightly toned down. It's definitely not full gas, lost 2.5 seconds. So I suspect a mistake somewhere in sector 2. Petrolisa deciding, I'm going to back out, let the tyres come back down. I was talking about pressures being too low, but if they go too high, you lose grip, and going slow is a good way to bring them down without having to come into pit lane.
Right, time's really tightening up at the top. It's just 53 thousandths of a second. Victor Maras still top. Philippe Prette's moved up to second place. Luca Piri, we're looking at him now. He was 4th before, but his margin has gone out to 8, nearly 9 tenths of a second. However, clearly looking at those first 2 splits, he's managed to find 1/4 of a second thus far in this lap. Round the final corner he goes, waiting to see where he can get down. Can he get into the 1 minute 34s? That has to be the target split for him. And he does improve on that lap, 1 minute 35.022. So he's 6 tenths of a second down. Still, it's the KTM, number 89, top of the pile for RCR Projects. Victor Maras at the wheel. Petrolisa goes into second place, now just 5 tenths of a second down. Second, third, and fourth. Just over 1/10 of a second covers them. But look, Philippe Prette banging in a fantastic first sector of the 3, but he's got traffic.
Yeah, I think the traffic of Maras is going to hold him up, and is that tactical from Maras? He's the fastest car at the moment. If this car was to do a 3rd purple sector, unsurprisingly, he would go fastest. He's got 2 of them at the moment. The KTM just about far enough where it's not going to be hurting Philippe Prette, but needs to get a clean run. KTM might peel right here into pit lane. Gets out the way well. Very fair from Maras. Can Prette keep the momentum up? Can he take pole position? He crosses the line. Now he does go pole position by nearly half a second. Great lap.
Yeah, that was a stonking lap. 1 minute, that's a technical term, by the way. 1 minute 33.8 seconds. So I'll be rather pleased with that. That was a very, very good lap. But hold on a second. Has that just been taken away? It's just lost it for track limits, I would think, because flashed the top of the time screens. It was a very quick lap. 1 minute 33.88. Stefanatelli. Gosh, almost every race meeting I go to at the moment, Stefan is there, whether it's historics, whether it's moderns, but he's so much knowledge to pass on, Stefan. You know, not all drivers are great communicators, but clearly that's one of Stefan's real strengths.
Yep, and his son in the background as well, Louis Prette, racing in GT3, GT World Challenge Sprint and Endurance. He's had a good year himself, and Ortelli, Formanak here, caught the back of that Mercedes and is not happy. I was about to say the body language is clear, but the contact between the cars was clearer. Yes, tempers boil over, frustrations high. That is going to attract a penalty. That is petulant, is the most positive word I could use to describe that.
Yeah, so just have to sort of put that out of your mind. Brian Formanek continues on his way, but he's got to find. He's just over a second down. He's in 6th place overall, but actually right now he has what he didn't before. He's got clear track. This is a replay. Let's take a look. Talk us through this moment.
Unless it's early in the lap, I don't know what he wants the Mercedes to do. He's fully off the line, making it obvious, and then just doors him. It's ridiculous. Petulant isn't strong enough for that. The gap he had through turn 12, there was no dirty air, unless it was something early in the lap. It's the only bit of solace I can give that driving from Brian Formanek there, because he could have damaged his car. He could have spun himself out. He could have damaged, in my opinion, the innocent Mercedes of Petrolisa. And the stewards are going to come down, I hope, like at least a ton of bricks. The team there looking for damage on the car. That front right corner took a big pack, and look at that, and that is a huge amount of damage on that carbon fibre splitter, and hopefully they can tape it up and continue their qualifying, because we've still got 6 minutes remaining, so they might be able to go, but the carbon there is going to start to get more drag and get less downforce, so it's going to be difficult for that Mercedes to improve.
Yeah, just really disappointing. And at a moment when you've got, you know, the track isn't crowded, there is space to play. But anyhow, we will draw a gloss over that for now and focus on who's still top. He's in the pits at the moment. It's Victor Maras, and he's done a good job. His margin is just under half a second, but the next 3 cars, next 4 cars, very, very close indeed. And at the moment, Roberto Pampanini, he was one of the last drivers out onto the circuit, but it's 20 minutes and he's used his time judiciously. Now, settled, but he just moved up to second place. He's fallen down to third, but that's just because Broniak Formignac has moved up. But Philippe Prette, who, remember, he got blocked a little bit. He is on a massive flyer with 2 purple sector times. That means fastest of all in those sectors. Here he is, front washing away a little bit, but he hasn't got much to go. He's swinging onto the start, finish straight. There it is, turn 15. Neat, tidy, slightly taking the corner in chunks, but that was so he didn't exceed track limits. But we get down to the very low 1:34s, tidy lap. 1:34.2, provisional pole position, 5 minutes remain. Philippe Prette has been putting together some really, really good runs in this session, and now he's joined them all together and got what could be the fastest lap. We have to wait and see if that remains at this end of this 20-minute session. He's well clear, 51 points clear in the AM class, but able to really mix it up at the front of the field as well. Philippe's had a fantastic season. 1 outright win, the opening race at Zandvoort. Right, Broniak Formignac, who may yet be in all sorts of trouble. He's improving his time. Down to 4th place overall. He's 0.6 of a second down. But Philippe Prette, Victor Maratz, Roberto Pampanini, they're the fast 3. Looks like Pampanini's got scope to improve yet more to become, to see if he can be the top Maserati driver. At the moment, it's Maserati, Philippe Prette, KTM, Victor Maratz, 3rd place. The second of the Maserati is Roberto Pampanini, and the Lamborghini, this one, car number 11, trying to get into the mix.
Yeah, and Prette's on another flyer at the moment, and that was his second pole lap. Obviously, first one lost to track limits. Formignac stays 4th at the moment. Tyre seems to be dropping away. Front tyre especially here, and I think he's already backed out of that lap as we go to Philippe Prette, slightly down in sector 1, but it was his last lap, sector 3, that wasn't the best, because actually Pampanini is purple in that sector. So Maserati having all 3 purple sectors, Philippe Prette not owning this last one at the moment. Like you said, Bruce, the front was washing out, looked stronger this lap, maybe just reined it in ever so slightly, not overdriving it, pushing to line. Pole at the moment, he wants to extend that gap.
Well, he was he much better run out of the final corner. Last time he compromised himself a bit, just trying not to wreck the lap. But 1:34.204, well, very close to that, but he's still sitting on top. But it's a small margin, just 0.145 of a second. Olivia Oliver Fremuth back in the pit garage. At the moment, he's sitting waiting, but waiting for what? One doesn't know. He's bottom on the time charts, just 2 and a bit seconds down. Now, this is a car we haven't had the cameras lay eyes on. Of course, on home ground, Alberto De Martin, he's sharing with fellow Spaniard Neil Montserrat for a Spanish team, NM Racing team, with their Mercedes. He's down in 7th place at the moment, just a whisker over 1 second down. Neat and taking it right to the edge. Well, I'll leave the stewards to decide if that was one of the wheels still within the white lines on the track. That's all you need.
Yeah, this car actually finished pre-qualifying fastest in the hands of Montserrat, the team out here, to De Martin, so we know this car can be fast. De Martin here, good sector 1 for him, only half a second down from that very fast purple sector from Prette, so this could be somewhere right in the mix as well. Mercedes 5th at the moment, Petrolisa. This car 7th at the moment. We're on track to be somewhere around Petrolisa, who we may not see again in this session with that damage, of course. So this is a chance now as the track has gone quiet. We've only got 5 cars on circuit. De Martin looking clean, getting all the apex points, and the sun still in the driver's eyes. And actually, when we looked at Fremuth, did you see this, the amount of tape on his visor acting as a sun strip there? So the driver's obviously struggling as they look into the sun, which is still low in the sky. Only 10:30 local time here, so the track temp starting to rise at the same point. Not a great middle sector here. This is going to actually struggle now to be an improvement. And sometimes visually the car looks good, but if the energy's not there, and I think we may be boxing out this last corner.
Yeah, that came. Now we're seeing drivers getting pinged for track limits. That's normal, particularly in a tight, twisty circuit like this. But what you don't want to add to that is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. And it's car 89. It's the one we're looking at now. It's Victor Maratz's KTM. You think you've got 20 minutes. You've got not too much traffic on the lap. And it's just, as a team manager, you pull your hair out.
Yeah, as well, I don't know the GT2 regulations inside out, unfortunately, but most regulations in series don't allow for the skates to go under the car, and that KTM also with the skates under, and it hasn't finished qualifying because we go straight into Q2 after this, so that could be double jeopardy for the KTM, speeding and the skates. As we look at Petrolisa, this lovely high shot here, you can see the whole circuit, all 4 kilometers from these high points, and that's why I love Valencia as a spectator. You're able to take your seat at the start of the day and see every ounce of action that unfolds in front of you.
And action most certainly happens. A lot of it is frustrated ambition, because you can try and get past, but it's not guaranteed at your first attempt you'll make it, and then you might be offline for the next corner. 15 corners in all. climbing and falling up the face of a gentle slope here on the outside of Valencia, but really this was a track designed for motorbike racing. That is why it's so twisty, twisty, twisty. But about getting it right, you know, a good lap around here is always going to have at least one compromise.
Yeah, we had the FIA Motorsport Games here just under a year ago, and we had some great racing in all disciplines. And I was about to say, it's a very good drift circuit. And Petrolisa on the line there, and another drift here from Pirelli. And has backed up my statement I hadn't made yet. But this car seems to have found a bit of pace, come into the pits, maybe bled the tyre pressures back down. Now they're hot, hooking it up nicely into the final corner at 14. Does it keep it legal on exit? Just about. Inch millimetre perfect. Is going to push to the beam. Sixth at the moment. Where can Luca Pirri improve to? He stays sixth, but it's a faster lap. And he just took the checker flag, didn't he? First car to take the checker flag in Q1.
Yeah, I thought he might have just been able to squeak one more lap, so stays in sixth place. But the good news is it's very competitive field. That's just under 0.7 of a second between him and this man. Philippe Prette got the job done, knows he's got a 10-minute break. He'll go back over again. Little wink there. The Prette Racing family just love the motorsport action. So that's a nice one in the bag. So we've got an AM-class driver on pole for the first of the two races. We've got the first GT2 race this afternoon. That will be kicking off at 10 to 5. So the track will be hot, the air will be hot. Certainly warmer than it is now. Not much. There's a little bit of shadow from the pit building cast over the start-finish straight, but the rest of the track very much in sunshine. But job done for Philippe Prette. Victor Murat second, and Roberto Pampanini, cool, calm, collected, just over a quarter of a second down in third position overall. Top 7 cars out of the 8-car field covered by 1 1/4 seconds. So that is super, super tight. So checkered flag is down. However, of course, we've got the next session coming up very soon indeed. 20 minutes more qualifying, just a 10-minute break in between. And while this is happening, the air temperature is warning, the track temperature is creeping its way up. And good to see some people already. Race action starts this afternoon, already coming to stand in the sit in the grandstands overlooking the start-finish straight, because that view down to turn 1 when the racing begins will be fantastic.
Just wanted to listen in, but I remembered I don't speak Slovakian, so it might be a bit academic on that front. And Formula with a shake of the head.
So let's look how close it is. As I said, 7/10 covering the top 6 positions, but an AM-class entry, Philippe Prette, top of the pile. Great job from Victor Murat. He went out early on in his KTM, but he was toppled. But look, just by 0.145 of a second. So he and his teammate Matteo Hommel will be very pleased with that. Roberto Pampanini, Mario Calamia, going very nicely indeed. So fastest in qualifying 1. He's a Maserati driver, and his name, the pole man, is Philippe Prette.
Philippe. No surprise. Here we are again. Beautiful lap. How's the car feeling this weekend?
Fantastic. Fantastic feeling. I love this track. Make many races here before. Surprised? I'm surprised. You're not surprised, but I'm surprised to be the first.
Really?
Yes. Until the end, it's not finished.
Well, it's true, but I do speak to you an awful lot. Nicely done. Okay, good start.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Neat and tidy there. Interviewed by Alex Legui. And look, knitting his glorious-looking Maserati around the circuit. Neat and tidy. Experience does pay, quite clearly. So pole position, it's also an AM-class driver, and he does it all on his own. So he'll be doing the second of the qualifying sessions to define the grid for tomorrow's race. But we have a race this afternoon, 10 to 5 we will kick off, and he will be starting from pole position. So Philippe Prette, Maserati, top of the pile. Saturday morning here at the circuit, Ricardo Tormo outside Valencia. And the pit lane, not a sea of action, but a lot of people preparing to come out for the second of the qualifying sessions. And the race this afternoon, by the way, 1 hour in duration. So the slate is wiped clean, Joe, and we wait for qualifying session number 2. Track conditions will be changing, but actually with one session following straight after the other, it's not going to be a big swing.
No, the interesting one will be the 3 drivers that are going solo for Philippe Prette on pole, 34.2. What can he improve to?
Right, let's take a look at some highlights from that first session. It was about getting the sighter lap in. What's the feel of the circuit? And people pressing on immediately. Petrolisa and that Mercedes going well. Broniek, well, he was to have his moments, unfortunately, and this wasn't his crowning one, where he took umbrage to a Mercedes driver, moved across on him, and a little bit of contact. And I'm afraid the stewards will be looking at that. Roberto Pampanini got his glorious gold Maserati up towards the front. And then it was about just not exceeding track limits, being neat and tidy, and certainly Victor Marat's was that he looked to be at the top of the pile, looked so he's going to stay there, but all the time threatening was Philippe Prette, and he was the one that came out on top. Of course, just over a year ago, this whole area was swept through by awful flooding. It's good to see the recovery. The circuit took a bit of a hit as well, but they've tidied up very well indeed. And track conditions this morning, it's a nice time to be in the pit lane. The air's not too hot, but you've got shade. Later in the day, you do not. So the comfortable working conditions now for the mechanics. And the number 115 NM Racing team, it's the home entry, the only Spanish team this weekend. And it'll be Neil Montserrat who slopped on board, and there's Alberto De Martin who did that first session. So I tell you what, let's pop down to the pit lane. And Victor Marat was doing the first run. He came second overall. He's with Alex.
Hello, Victor. So this is a relatively new pairing, isn't it, with Matto? Talk us through that session. That looked rather nice.
Sorry?
The session looked rather good. How does the car feel?
It's very hard, but very hard to push on the limit, you know, and it will done, so I'm happy.
Well, good. How important is track position at a circuit like Valencia?
In this circuit is very important because the overtaking is very hard on this track.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Alex down there with Victor Marat. There's his car looking resplendent in the background. Not his car, actually. He just walked up to the neighbouring car. I apologise for that. I jumped in the wrong direction. But it's all about the swap over from the first driver to the second. But as Joe was pointing out, a handful of drivers running solo. That's Philippe Prette, Oliver Frameth and Luca Piri, respectively, driving a Maserati, a Lamborghini and an Audi. So plenty of manufacturer variety in the GT2 European Series. But just waiting for the moment at which the pit lane is open, but it's a generous 20-minute qualifying session, and that certainly gives them scope to settle down and be calm as they learn the circuit.
Yes, calm would be a good way to maybe start your weekend, wouldn't it? And yep, GT2, good manufacturer variety. It's a spice of life, like you said, Bruce, but we're going to add Ginetta to that fold next year as well. We're also going to add the silver class, which will be interesting to allow 2 silver drivers to race together. That's definitely going to be a positive. And then also the prize for that silver winning driver of the championship, if they're in a Mercedes or a Maserati GT2 car, they will then get a fully funded drive in GT3 the following year in a Mercedes. So that is a big springboard, isn't it? If you're a young silver driver, not sure what to race next year, not only do you go to some great circuits, drive some great cars, a great prize that could potentially be life-changing. As a driver, you get that drive in the GT3 Mercedes, you can go elbow to elbow with the factory guys and prove you can do a good job, and then suddenly you get paid as a racing driver. That's how I see the timeline.
That's the way to go, and let's go down here. A man who knows an awful lot about racing, Luca Piri.
Luca, you were putting in some rather nice laps out there. Talk to us about how the circuit is this morning.
I think the circuit is getting much better compared to the previous 2 days where we had a lot of rubber and it was super slippery. GT3 managed to clean it up for us, and so we are happy. Times are getting down. I wasn't that good to pull out a good lap. I got the checker flap when the tires were perfect at the same second temperature, but I hope we'll do better now in Q2. I miss a lot Stefan, who should be here, but had other appointments this weekend, and I'll try to fight hard for him like if he was with us.
So you feel like you're handing over a rather nice car?
Yes, car is super good. We previously with this car, 2023, we did the pole position when we won the championship, so car is super reliable. I think now technology, the new cars are a bit quicker, but we still have something to give.
Just how tricky is this circuit when it comes to, I mean, it's one thing obviously doing qualifying, another thing doing the race. This isn't the easiest circuit to overtake, is it?
Overtaking is barely impossible, so it's very important to do good qualifying. Track is very physical, you can see me, and definitely race is going to be intense. The 1 hour race as a single driver will be a bit of a marathon.
You look like you could do with cooling down a little bit, Luca.
Exactly, I will. Okay, thank you.
Merci.
Thank you very much, Alex. And the Stefan to who he referred, of course, was Stefan Rattel of the Stefan Rattel organisation, the mastermind behind the SRO Group and all we see before us. And I'm sure he'll be doing busy things this weekend, but I tell you what, I'm sure Stefan would prefer to be back here racing, obviously. But anyhow, So it's, again, that's one of the 3 all-solo crews. So Luca Piri, LP Racing, Luca Piri Racing, if you do your break down the acronym. He's the solo Audi driver in the field. So the session is about to get going again once we get to 10:45 in a minute. 45 this morning, and another 20-minute session. But even during that interview, temperatures beginning to eke their way higher.
Yeah, Piri's a seasoned driver now, isn't he? He's getting the most out of that GT2 Audi. But you can see how hot it was, and that was only 20 minutes, and that's what we said about Prette, wasn't it? Doing qualifying is one thing. The positive, I think, as a solo driver, is you get your eye in for this second session. And I wonder if Philip Prette can get into the 33s. Now he's going to get another set of new tyres. 34.2 was his pole position lap from Q1. I think he should be able to find a couple of tenths on that improvement, but then the race, it becomes a negative, an hour of full push. As we go green, and we see the previously Formulac-driven car now handed over to his teammate. Stefan Racina has been very strong at times this year, hasn't he, in qualifying, and expect this car to be up there. And a real statement as well, waiting at the end of pit lane for this relatively long qualifying session. So they're deciding they want to go early. Maybe they've kept the tyres on from Formulac. I would say not, considering the attitude of that car weaving left to right to generate some temperature. There's our 3rd solo driver, Oliver Freeman, who's the driver with a huge amount of tape on his visor. He's obviously struggling with the low sun in the morning here, but it also could be a problem this evening. Race start is 4:50 local time. Look at the exhaust system firing up there. What a shot as the V10 rumbles into life. Bruce, that's what you're talking about. Yes, it's great on TV, but until you get here and you feel that, it's not your ears that feel it, it's your chest.
Yeah, up through the sternum.
Exactly, all your organs rattle in a positive fashion.
Yeah, some people pay for the privilege. But just going back to the prize you're talking about, you know, we dive down for an interview, but the chance to run a GT2, observe how all the GT3 teams go about their business with the scope of being among them with a paid drive. But as you say, it's not just you get paid to do a season, or to have to pay to do a season, but the fact is if you behave well and perform well, you could well then be a proper professional driver at the other end. And how many people get that opportunity? So many try, so many people nearly get there, they take a wrong decision or an incident on the track, their season is wiped. And, you know, motor racing is about jeopardy, about as much as it is about other things. But I think it's a phenomenal prize, and I'd love to see which drivers have already thrown their name into the hat, see if they can do it next year.
And that's all down to SRO, the foresight to realise that GT2 needs some supporting. It's a new series, it's growing, but this is going to be a huge catalyst, and fair play to SRO for taking it by the reins and supporting that prize, because it is a very big asset to put in. As we see, Racina starting his first flyer. You can actually see the team there hanging a pit board out. We don't see that super often. Normally the radio communication takes precedent, but the driver's obviously liking it written down so they visually see it. Watch the car dive under braking here for turn 2. Second gear hairpin all the way down to 80 kilometers an hour. Careful of track limits, nice and legal there just, and then seems to let the car run out almost quite late in that phase. That would have been on the limit. The cameras there going deep there to turn 4. That was a bit too high on entry speed, and same at 5. So the front end of this Lamborghini at the moment not activated. Front tyre maybe still coming up to temperature, and Racina struggling to place the car where he wants and needs to.
Well, Stefan brings just so much experience, effectively best part of 20 years racing cars of a caliber, you know, FIA GT2 when it was a different sort of category, you know, back 20 years ago. But he's raced across the board. He's raced Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He's raced, International GT Open. He's raced so many things, and all that experience just gets combined. And you know, it's about how you deliver the feel you have for a car. And, you know, it's great to see Stefan still out there, still punning around. Certainly he'd be educating Brian Formignac as they race together. And you can learn a lot from an experienced teammate.
Yeah, he's at the point of his career where he knows everything, all the nuances, the ins and outs. If he's in an office job, he'll know everyone's name on the floor. You know that the copier needs to kick every Tuesday morning to get the second piece of paper out, and that's where a seasoned pro like Racina also then brings on his teammate in Formulac. He'll be coaching him in between sessions, making sure he's understanding of the best way to drive this Lamborghini. The energy in the car is phenomenal. The dive there. The KTM won't dive as much. Carbon fiber chassis, you can see the suspension still compresses, but nowhere near as much as that Lamborghini Huracan GT2.
It was dropping down onto its nose. Great to see. And I tell you what, if people haven't seen the KTM, when you get to see it in the pit lane, just the thing that fascinates people is the way the lid comes up for the driver to get out. Hopefully we'll see that later. But it's funny, things that are new to motor racing, you know, they come, they love the sound, the speed. But it's just funny little things that you take for granted. But again, look at the way these doors pivot up. You know, it's not like in your average road car. Well, this is certainly not your average road car, because I don't think anybody's car has 700 horsepower to play with. Right, Stefan Racina, 1 minute 34.2. That is a very good, tidy first offering, but you can be sure he'll improve. Look, his first sector alone is over half a second quicker than on his first flyers. So times are going to come down, that's for sure.
Yep, and Philip Prette's lap has been matched already on that first lap, and expect this lap to possibly into the 32s as he's keeping it tight. How's Sector 2 looking? Not his quickest, but we're still up at the moment. Maybe already the tyre dropping away. If you're putting energy into it, it's got to go somewhere. I would say Racine is one of these drivers that's amazing at activating the tyre, putting it in the window, but potentially then it goes through the window quite quickly on the back of that, out the last corner, nice and legal, pushing to the line. Sometimes you can save an upshift if you can just get across the line. Every upshift takes away a slight bit of power. So 33.6, that's the fastest lap we've had of the weekend, provisional pole.
Well, I just found 0.6 of a second, so no wonder we were commenting on, or you were commenting about how the nose was diving down into turn one. He obviously got it spot on for that. Right, Luca Pirri, what can he do? He's had a cold flannel dragged across his face after that interview, cooled down, but of course he knows what the track's like. He's already done session one, whereas Stefan Racina had to stand and watch and look and learn, but he was using his experience there. So target time, 1 minute 33.6, and at the moment Luca Pirri hasn't put a time on the board, so that's why his sector has improved so much. Of course, what's it compared against? That's compared against his outlap. The first stage, of course, would be the least competitive, though. He's just left the pits, etc., etc. But right now, using his experience, of course, he's been racing GT class cars for about as much time as Stefan Racina as well, so can fall back on all he's learnt so far.
Yeah, and it still looks like a bit of a build lap. It was a stronger Sector 2, but it just looks like the tyre's not there, and he's staying off the curbs at the moment as we look at Rokosh in this Mercedes with a potential bit of damage on that front right corner. The team obviously had some time to address it. Looks okay visually, so hopefully performing all okay. Yeah, that front right corner, they've done a very good job, the RTR project car, of turning that around and making it look showroom new once more.
Now, at the end of the first qualifying session, 20 minutes all, we had the top 7 cars covered by 1.2 seconds. At the moment, the top 7 cars, in fact, 7 cars haven't even done a flying lap, but it's a 6-second margin. It will come down every single lap. Mata Homola, there he is, banging in the fastest middle sector of anyone. He's put 1 flying lap on the board, but there's no way he's going to stay on 1 minute 39.5. He's going to certainly crash in a much, much quicker time. So Mata Homola expects an improvement from 4th overall. Second, well, that's a good climb. He's gone to 1 minute 37.4. That is way off where he could be. That's his banker lap. In, respectable.
Yeah, he's got Racina ahead of him in the times, but also on track just at the end of the pit straight. So he would have been using that as his visual cue to work out, am I gaining, am I losing? And he lost 3/10 on that lap, but he'll be happy with second. Here's Oliver Framuth. He was 8th in Q1 on a 36.5, so that will be his target time again. The line looking good. He's on the right bit of the tarmac. The hard bit here visually is to see, is he carrying that extra 2-3 kilometers an hour that Stefan Racina was, for example, in another Lamborghini. And that's where, again, driver coaching, data and video analysis makes it much, much easier these days to find lap time for all of these drivers out there.
But the lovely thing is Oliver Framuth presses on and on. His time is clearly going to improve. He may get up to about 3rd or 4th position with this. But it's the fact you've got 20 minutes. That is a very generous helping of time. So you can afford to just build up to something. But of course, you're playing that off against, and Framuth goes up into 4th place. That was a big climb for him. Be playing off against, you know, how long your tyres last. When is the sweet spot for your tyres? Is it lap 2? Is it lap 3? Can you still be pressing on at lap 5? Who knows? They know. They're finding out.
Yep, Framuth does improve from his Q1 time just by 0.5, though expect more from here. Oliver Rokosh here now fully on it, 7/10 down on Racina, but that's a different class car. That's Pro-Am versus this Am class car. His fight really is Philip Prette and Luca Pirri, Oliver Framuth as well in this Am class. You can see that on the timing tower, the red backgrounds of the Am, the green is the Pro-Am. 4 in this Am class at the moment. Rokosh is 4th, but this is definitely going to be an improvement for him. Where is it going to put him overall, but also in class?
Well, Stefan Racina, is, despite being fastest, he's had a lot of times. The last 1, 2, hold on a second. I think his last 3 laps he's had taken away from him for exceeding track limits. So he put in provisional pole time, 1 minute 33.6. We applauded, we clapped our hands, but since then, pressing on, and he's only 0.3 of a second clear of Matta Homola, so the KTM crew very happy with life there, and certainly the fact that Stefan Racina, I was talking about the value of experience, knowing how to stay between the white lines. He's done nothing of the sort.
Yeah, Petrolisa there happy with Rokos because he has gone fastest in the M class with that car. What can Philip Prette do? The time from Rokos, incidentally, is quicker than Prette's Q1 time by a 10th. So Prette's going to have to do the best lap he's done of the weekend to take 2 M class pole positions. It's not going to be an overall this time because of the pros mixed in. Homola goes second in that Pro-Am KTM there. Prette crosses the line and he takes it back off, and so has Luca Perri. So Rokos from hero to third in the matter of 45 seconds.
Counting through, 10 minutes left on the clock out of 20. Nigh on halfway through this session. Stefan Racina, 1 minute 33.6 seconds. One of the last cars to go out there was Neil Montserrat, and he suddenly moved up to third overall at the halfway point. Number 7, Maserati at the bottom. Mauro Calamia, round he sweeps, but he's about to put in a really good lap. He was one of the other 2 drivers who was very late out into the session. Lackadaisical, I don't think so. It's absolutely worked. Fastest time in session. So that is very impressive. 1 minute 33.0. Suddenly, 0.6 of a second clear. How much closer would Racina be if he hadn't had his lap times taken away? You know what? He's lost another one now. Yeah, Racina has lost. I'm just quickly going down there. I think that's 5 of his laps have been taken away. No, it can't be that many.
I think he's getting multiple track limits on
per
the
lap.
same lap.
That's the point, yes. In fact, I think so. He's possibly had 2 lap times taken away, but that's 6 offences or offences at 6 corners, each of which was enough to have that lap time taken away.
And he's obviously having to push hard, and Calamia here, purple in sector 1 as well. Already 0.6 clear, so if he can match his sector 2 and 3, he'd be a second clear. Huge snap of oversteer. Great catch there on the wheel from Camilla in this 7 car. My favourite livery, of course I'm impartial, but this thing in the sunlight just pops so well. Is the tyre starting to drop away? The driver has to adjust to the grip level each corner. It's not every lap you're having to change. Each corner you're just going, how much grip have I got? Feeling it through the wheel, feeling it through the seat as we see a spin from Montserrat there, and that's at turn 13. So the yellow flag's going to be out for that 7 car. Is going to come through shot now, and Montserrat does a good job, but I think the 7 car is going to have to bail out of that. And Montserrat doing well to get that Mercedes out and out through the gravel trap on the exit of 12.
A little bit unfortunate for Mauro Calamia. Gosh, does that Swiss driver love his Lamborghini, his Maseratis. He won the Maserati title back in 2014, so a man who stayed true to course, and certainly this car, well, that lap will be not what he wants. 1 minute 33.7, even within that, it still would be good for third overall. This is what happened to Neil Montserrat. Yeah. Just a case of grabbing too much curb and then on landing, and it really was landing. Not much he could do to straighten that one out.
No, exactly. He actually did really well the initial save, and as he comes on to the slippier, the marbles, the grass and the gravel, he doesn't quite get enough opposite lock to stop it going all the way around. But these race cars don't have much steering lock, and you can see he's always maxed out, does well just to jam the brake on to stop the rotation, and then actually has quite a nice view on how to rejoin, because the cars are going 140 kilometers an hour towards him. It's a hard rejoin to do there, and actually did it as efficiently as well as possible. Luca Perri here, and in Q1 his best time was a 1:34.8, and this is going to be a good time on that, 34.2, and he goes 6th, second in class.
Yeah, remains 6th, but he was edging closer. Top 5 cars covered, including Neil Montserrat, including his spin, covered by 0.9 of a second. Mauro Calamia, he was the driver interrupted as Montserrat was recovering. He had to back off in the uphill sweeper, turn 12 through 13. That costed this lap. It's as though he said, okay, we'll build up all over again, because look at his sector times. In the middle sector alone, he's 1.5 seconds down. Looking at the aerial shot, sweeping through turn 13 down to 14, they come. Wait for it, turn in, and then it tightens again on exit, but nice and smooth. The important thing, if he's building for his next flight, well, he's not, he's going for a coffee, I think.
Yeah, 6 minutes remaining. I think that will be session done. With the gap he's got, he'll be confident. Even with a tyre bleed, I don't think he'll be able to find it. The Pirelli peaks for 2 to 3 laps and then just drops off half a second, then another half a second, and that's where it stays for the rest of its life. Pirelli have done such a good job with the development of their slick tyre. We're on a new iteration this year, the DHG, and all the drivers have really been praising it as Prette goes in super deep there. And again, I just think the tyre has now dropped for Philip Prette, and he'll be happy. He's fastest in class, 5th overall, and he has improved his lap time into the 33s like suspected, so 0.3 quicker than Q1. Of course, some of that will be fuel load. They can't refuel during the session, so Q2 lighter, all the fuel burnt in Q1 not having to be carried around right now.
Yeah, but in that first session he took outright pole position. That's the Saturday afternoon race starting at 10 to 5 here at the circuit. Ricardo Tormo just outside Valencia. So Job, he knows he's got that one in the bag, and this one, well, he's top in the AM class. 5th overall, so midway down the provisional grid. Who's still out there pushing? Neil Montserrat, how good are his tyres at this point? We saw him have a spin just 2 laps ago in that NM Racing Team Mercedes. Drifting it now at this point, you'd suggest his tyres are not quite at their freshness as well, but he's 2nd overall. So his last lap was his best one thus far, one at 33.5. So that's quite a recovery. Have an off, come round, down the start finish straight, start a lap and press on. Pressing on, he really is doing that. I mean, that looks just so dynamic. Not always the momentum that he wanted, and that run into the final corner. Well, I thought he was just going to give up and report to the pits, but no, pressing on. Fantastic high shot looking down from one of the tall pit buildings. And then this is the descent to the first corner. Just under 5 minutes remain. And you know what? Only one other car on the track. Traffic should not be an issue.
As we look at Racina, and started off strong, didn't it, that lap, and car seemed to go off quite quickly, and similar body language potentially to his teammate after Q1 as well. Not best pleased, Luca Piri. After a good Sector 1, it just looks like he's maybe backed out of Sector 2. He was unlucky, wasn't he, in Q1 to take the checkered flag as he was ready to go. And I think he looks like he's now preparing a lap. Yep, he's lost over 3 seconds in Sector 2. So he will have time for 2 more flyers at the end of this one, should he need it. And Montserrat still out there, but not improving. He did monster the curbs through turn 12, which caused him to spin, but he seems to be better. Piri there really opening up the angle, trying to get a good drive out the last corner, or is he going to box? And it's the latter one, isn't it? He gives up, and I think he'll be happy with that. 2nd in class, close to Philip Prette.
You certainly think so. So that leaves Neil Montserrat all on his own. Just going through turn 9 now. He's got the track to himself. Here he is in the NM Racing Team Mercedes, sitting at the moment 2nd overall, which would be a very good result for the team on its home ground, at least a Spanish team racing in Spain, except he's issued the offer. He's backed off. Unlike a lot of these drivers, and particularly on the previous lap, you can see that Neil was absolutely pushing to the limit of those tyres, seeing what he could squeak out of them. May not have helped them with the slight rotation just a few laps ago when he went off the circuit, but just to the edge, and he's rejoined. But right now, I think this is the body language of another car that's popping in to meet the pit crew. So there we are. The track is empty. Nobody, by the looks of things, going out with 3 and a bit minutes remaining. So job very well done by the Maserati driven by Mauro Calamia. Neil Montserrat 2nd in his Mercedes, and look at the variety of manufacturers. 3rd place, Stefan Racina. You'd expected him to have possibly taken pole position, but track limits excess put his Lamborghini in 3rd. And the one and only KTM, Matta Homola, he takes 4th overall. And then if you look at the drivers with the red background, they're all running in the AM class, and Philippe Prette has taken the prize in that class ahead of Luca Piri and Andre Rocos and Oliver Framus bringing up the rear, but just over 1 second covering the top 6. That's a good competitive field.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race, isn't it, this afternoon for these drivers.
I'll tell you what, the car is gold and black, so are the overalls. It's Mauro Calamia, and he is our pole sitter. Let's hear his thoughts.
Mauro, where others were losing their nerve out there with track limits, you kept your cool and put out some beautiful laps.
Yeah, it was very nice to drive today. Since the first day, the car was very good. The balance is perfect for us. Yeah, and was trying to keep the car into the lines to not take the track limits. And after that, full push. Yeah, we are 2nd in the championship, and our goal is to take the first one.
Yep, full attack. Do you feel like you have what it takes to convert it to race pace?
I don't think so, but I think this weekend is the first weekend that we start without any problems, and we can make our program like we want. And yeah, I think it seems like it looks very well.
Congratulations, great start to the weekend.
Yeah, job done very nicely. And again, he points out, that's just qualifying. We've got to get those points in the bag, but certainly in terms of the championship, it's quite well spread at the top, but press on they will from 46 points down, so it's a bit of a mountain to climb, but you keep on going. You have no idea what your rivals are to do. But today, in the 2nd of the qualifying sessions for the GT2 European Series, the pretty Maserati came out on top, and eventually by just under half a second, so that was a good margin. But Mauro Calamia looked very neat. The car looks fantastic, around this circuit, and by golly, do you have to be able to get it right. 14 turns coming at you thick and fast around the circuit, Ricardo, Tormo, but in GT2 class, another blink of an eye, could have been into the 1 minute 32s, but a really, really good lap from Mauro Calamia. And again, it all helps start the race from the front. That'll be for the second of the races. 2 races here at Valencia, and they're chasing points as we close towards the end of the season. But advantage right there for Dynamic Motorsport, top of the pile there for Mauro Calamia. And job done, of course, 2 races to follow for the GT2 runners. But right now, it's all about getting your pole position. Tick that box, Joe.
Yeah, and there is the cool lid you were talking about for the KTM that pops up, and that's how you facilitate the driver change. It's definitely a quirk, as we get a lovely drone shot there of the teammates embracing. So much work goes into this, not just the free practice sessions before qualifying, the week leading up. There could be simulator work, plenty of phone calls, especially between a pro and an AM. The AM normally needing some reassurance and just being told they can do it, and that's why they do it, is for moments like this. Pole position is a great way to start the weekend as we get into the competitive element of the weekend.
So let's just refresh the grid after the second of the qualifying sessions. Mauro Calamia getting the job done by 0.46 of a second. Neil Montserrat 1 spin, but that was only blot on his copybook. He's good for second place in his Mercedes. Stefan Racina, track limits aside, he probably could have been challenging for pole position, but looks very handy in the Michanek Lamborghini. And Mato Homola in the KTM, 4th overall, top in the AM class, and he took pole outright for the first racing. It's Philippe Prette at the top of that pile. Taking a look back at the highlights of that session, well, the cars look fantastic sounding still. They sound brilliant. Get out on the track, and those extreme aerodynamics certainly help handle the 700 plus horsepower. That is a lot of power to play with. Very, very dynamic. The KTM always in the mix. That was Mato Homola pressing on. Stefan Racina hopped into the Lamborghini and just seemed to find the edge of the circuit. Talk about the edge of the circuit. This driver, Neil Montserrat, had his own moment where he went beyond, but he settled to come out 2nd overall. And here is the moment where, round came the tail, couldn't quite swing it the other way. But at the end, Mauro Calamia took over the number 7 Maserati, kept it neat, kept it tidy, was fast, and took pole position.